finally got your first leadership gig, loving the new role, but feeling the pressure of your new responsibilities and all that expectation to perform? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. Crossing the chasm from a technical role to leadership, from doing stuff to managing and leading people, is the toughest challenge any leader must make. Welcome to the Human Edge Show, the podcast dedicated to help you do just that, successfully cross the doing to leading chasm. Campbell Such here, Chief Chasm Crossing Guide. I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. I want to help you learn those lessons much more easily by sharing my experiences and talking with brilliant people who have already figured it out. You'll get great actionable tips, strategies, and techniques to make the transition so much easier and faster for you. Now let's get to it. Welcome to another episode of the Human Edge Show. Today, I'm really privileged to have Lindsay Zwart on the show with me. Welcome, Lindsay. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Lindsay is Chief Enterprise Officer and Director at Vodafone New Zealand. Lindsay is a strategic company leader with a passion to enable others to thrive in their business roles. She enjoys working with her teams to uncover opportunities, win great deals, celebrate success, and build a culture and community within the team. Lindsay puts people front and center to deliver growth and profitability for an organization by connecting people, organizations, and bringing projects together. Her international work experience from South Africa, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the USA has helped ideally prepare Lindsay for her current role at Vodafone New Zealand. As a woman in a senior executive position in a world of technology, she can support her other passion, which is to enable opportunity for women to hold positions in senior roles. Lindsay is involved in many activities to support women in leadership and tech roles in New Zealand and internationally. So, Lindsay, great to have you on the show. We'll kick off by asking you, what's one thing that not many people would know about you?
I think what catches many people is I'm actually an identical twin. And I didn't have any issues when I lived in the US for the 13 years I was with Microsoft. But coming back to New Zealand, it is quite my sister gets hit up about Vodafone questions all the time, and which is really fun. And I think the other part is I come from a deeply technical background. I've got as a first woman in the UK with my MCSE on NT4, for those of you who remember NT4. I've got Cisco checkpoint qualifications, and that's really held me in a good stead with regards to understanding core networking, connectivity, routing and switching, and being able to have the right level of conversations around what if possibilities. Yeah, well, it's amazing. It's great, isn't it, that as a technical person, if you can move into leadership and have all of those other skills that give you the ability to lead really well, having that technical knowledge to be able to then make better decisions and better assess information that comes up to you from the people around you that advise you is really awesome. There's been some amazing work done with twins. Does your twin sister bear any resemblance to the career path that you've taken, or how do you guys relate? No, it's funny. We're polar opposites. So I'm like this technical geek. I went to university and did a Bachelor of Applied Sciences, and she is creative, amazing at graphic design, and she runs her own graphic design events company and can draw and do all these incredible things. And I can't do any of it. Yeah. So we're totally different.
Isn't it amazing how, virtually the same DNA and so much different in terms of the way that you live your life and where your strengths are. Yeah, it's awesome. Lindsay, just casting your mind way back, well, probably not so way back for you, to your early steps and foray into leadership, can you just talk a little bit about how you got into leadership, what you found worked and what didn't work, some of the missteps you made, and perhaps some ideas for new leaders stepping into a leadership role from a technical role around what they might think about and what they might do to make that transition in a little easier and able to accelerate a little bit quicker as a leader.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always tried to be authentic with regards to my style, my approach. I think I learned early on that the best way to gain trust and respect is to listen. And in a lot of cases, the team have so much knowledge and understanding of the business that if you just take the time to sit and learn, and then move forward around the key decisions or key strategic direction, it's the best way to gain that trust. And so I think listening, often I'll go into meetings and I'll have an idea, and my team not know that it's absolutely fine to do a whole 360 with me if they have great cases that they can bring about, alternatives, or what if we did this, or how do we change? And I think the ability to not always be stuck on what you think is right, but to really listen and learn and know. I think that's important. And one of my key principles around leadership is, as I said, to be authentic, kind, and fair. But I'm also quite firm. And there are certain no-goes. So you make your numbers, you're accountable, you deliver on what you're going to say. And if we're clear on that, then the rest of the stuff we can kind of work our way through it. And everyone knows that in my team, so they know what the non-negotiables are, and then they know how we can basically work together on everything else. Yeah.
As someone sitting inside a team, being able to have that real understanding of where you fit and where you can operate inside is really powerful. Helps with making decisions and all that kind of stuff. Listening's super powerful. Is that something that you learned over time, or was that something that you had kind of in your kit bag, in your swag bag to start with? And if it wasn't, how did you go about developing that as a skill? Because for most people, they're listening to talk, not listening to understand. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we go into these leadership roles thinking, I know exactly what I have to do, and I know exactly how to fix whatever problem there may be within the team or the activity that they're delivering. And you're right, listening it's a learnt skill. And I got told early on that I have to stop and take people on the journey with me. Being a South African, I often also get told I'm a straight shooter. I'm like, right, let's go. I know exactly where we need to go. And I've learned over time that you have to stop, take stock of where everyone is, where are their perspectives, and then bring them along. And that journey may not be, like I said, the same journey you thought it was when you started the conversation. It can twist and change and alternate, and people can contribute, and you could actually wind up in a way better place than what you thought at the start. But you need to bring people in, and you need to just stop. And that is definitely something I've had to stop and listen and learn over time, and you go from these roles where, you might have 6 or 10 reports into my organisation's over 400. And then it's not just listening to the leaders, but it's listening to their leaders and then their team, and what is the culture, and how are you getting the information to kind of roll up. Because as you move into more senior roles, it's hard to listen further down the organisation. Things start getting diluted. And how do you make sure you really know what's going on? And I think that is around taking the time to walk the floors. And this was also something my business manager in the US used to make me do it, because I'm a natural introvert. And she used to put it in my calendar and say, right, walk the floors. Go and walk around the floors and talk to people and get a feel for what are the challenges, or what are they excited about, or what do we need to improve, and learn. And you have to build that in to your weekly, your daily rhythm to listen and learn, not just from your managers, but all the way through the organisation.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I interviewed Diana Taylor on a previous episode, and who's running Rian's. She's the CEO of Rian's, and one of the things that she does is a thing she calls the skip meeting. And I'd never heard of it before, but I love the concept, and the idea is that you have a planned meeting where you're meeting with your direct reports, and it's not to cut your direct report out, but it's to provide a safe environment for them to air what they're thinking and feed it back up. Because as leaders, it's so easy for us as we go up the chain to become more and more isolated from what we really need to know. How do you go about getting accurate, authentic, true information from people further down the organisation?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So we started this a while ago at my previous life. It's a little tacky name, but like Lunch with Lindsay, that's what they called it. And so that is the same thing. It's skip level. So it's picking different team members throughout the organisation, and we go and we have lunch together and we just talk about the business. But there is another tool we've recently launched at Vodafone, which is really a game changer. It's called Joyous. I don't know if you've heard of it. And at the start of every week, a question goes out, and the teams can rate the question and then they can write responses. So like, are you getting the support you need from your executive, or do you have clarity of your strategic focus and your priorities? And everything bubbles up to me. So my managers see their team, but I see everyone's, and I'm obsessive about it now. I can't wait. It's slightly addictive, and you sit and you see all the feedback rolling in, and you just read everyone's comments about how they feel, what are the challenges. Yesterday someone in the regions was saying, I can't get a resource. And I was like, why can't you get a resource? We have resources. And so things are starting to bubble out. And, the other key element is that the managers must respond, because actually it's just common courtesy that if someone takes the time to make a comment, that the manager takes the time to respond. And I'm pretty hard about that. But that is also bringing out insights and trends and common themes that we're seeing across the organisation. Yeah, it's a phenomenal tool.
And that sounds really powerful. One of the challenges as a direct report of a manager that perhaps you're having some challenges with, or you may not feel comfortable with, to say some of the things that you might really feel. Does Joyous cope with that idea so that there's an anonymity, or is it one of those ones where you just get a chance to say and it's clear who you are and what you're saying?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. The first time we launched it, a whole lot of people said, I thought it was anonymous and no one would see my feedback. And we said no. The whole point is we want you to feel brave enough to give us honest and open feedback, and that's the culture we're trying to build.
Yeah.
So if something's not working, if you don't put your hand up, who's going to put their hand up? So just tell us. And actually, people are getting more and more confident in their feedback that they're giving us, and it's good, because you got to get it out, right? It's got to come in, it's got to bubble up so that we can pick it up and resolve it.
Yeah, look, I think that's super powerful, and an idea for anyone else that's listening or watching this to consider. Maybe it's not Joyous, but that ability to be able to get the truth and provide and start to create or continue to evolve the culture that allows that confidence and comfort and safety for someone to be able to say what they really think and not fear reprisal, to be able to have a robust conversation, to be able to disagree with someone, and it to be a good thing, because if you've got the best interests of the company and your team and yourself obviously at heart, then things can really, really work powerfully. That's cool. Well, that's fantastic to hear. Oh, well, that's something to consider.
Yeah.
We've kind of got onto that, to the manager of managers. One of the things that is, it's a big jump to go from a technical role to a leadership role, and there's a big chasm to cross and a whole new toolbox that you need. The other big step in leadership is going from leading people doing stuff to leading leaders to get stuff done. Can you recall when you made that first step and perhaps the stub toes that you had, or the epiphanies that you had that might help a new leader in a leading leaders role to help them make that transition? Because if you can't, it's tough, right?
Yeah. It is. You're right. It's a total different shift around how you lead and how you help your teams lead. And I think for me, there's a few things. I think helping the team become their cheerleaders is really important. And I say to my teams, we celebrate everything. Whatever happens, we celebrate it. We celebrate everything that we see, because when you don't manage the teams directly, you're one remove from seeing the impact that the individuals are having. And so as a strong leader of leaders, you have to encourage those leaders to really learn how to manage up. And managing up is a skill that not many people have, and you have to learn how to manage up. And a lot of people say to me, oh, it feels like I'm boasting. I'm like, no, it's you're showing your impact, and actually you're doing it for your teams, because people will forget what they've done or will be overseen. And it's your job to showcase the amazing people you have in your team. And as I'm a leader of those leaders, my leaders need to bring and elevate and celebrate success within their teams. And so I think that's one part of it, is really how do you make sure that you teach your leaders to manage up and celebrate success. But then the other part of it is really connecting across different groups. And I found that's often the hardest part, is you're used to running one group and you know it really well and you understand it. And then all of a sudden you're running lots of different business units who have lots of different responsibilities. And how do you make sure that they all collaborate, connect, and understand that we have this shared vision and goal? And it's not, as a manager of a business unit, it's also your responsibility to understand the priorities of the other business units, so you understand how you all interconnect. Because remember, you're all flying in one direction. You all have the same goal in mind, and so you've got to look up and look across and understand what the other teams are doing, and that's quite a shift. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So just so I'm clear on, excuse me, just so I'm clear on what you're referring to there about looking across. So is that looking across in the teams that you're responsible for, or is that looking across in terms of your colleagues in the other teams?
Your colleagues. Yeah.
And so how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, and so I think this is part of so if you're a manager of managers, it's really critical for you to have clarity on your core strategic goals. And I've been, with IBM and Microsoft, scorecards are something that's kind of ingrained in you. And I think they're a great tool to really have clarity around your purpose and your priorities. And being clear on where you feed into the priorities is critical, and then how you connect across the other groups. And so, check-ins, priority meetings, all hands, clarity on focus, all of those components are really important. So I'm a manager of managers, right? I need to understand all of my business units and how all of their activities feed into our core strategic goal. Then if I'm a manager, I need to look across at the rest of my colleagues who are managers and understand how their priorities or their activities feed into my business unit, or how I help them deliver what they need to do, right? Yeah, quite a different shift in thinking, I think.
Yeah. And that connection with those other people across your peer group of managers or leaders, and I guess it even goes to people that are working within teams that don't necessarily have a leadership role, just as important, right? That you look up and across your team.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you've found that works really well? Because, there's things, I guess, like, you have lunch with them, or there may be more formal meetings. Is there anything that you'd recommend that leaders do to look out across their peer group that you've found successful in terms of your approach to actually achieving that?
Yeah, well, I mean, and so if you have agile squads, you can connect different squads together. But I think this management layer and having a really strong connected management layer that trust each other is really, really important. And that's part of the culture you ingrain, as part of the activities that you do. It's making sure, for my team, we sync every Monday morning. And we understand where each business unit's at, their priorities, and what they're focused on doing. A lot of it is culture and trust. I made some changes in my leadership team, and we had this meeting, and quite a phenomenal change where I had 2 sales leads saying, well, I can help you deliver on this number, and I can help you cover your number here. And I was like, someone's singing. This is amazing. They're leaning in, and they're saying, I'll help you be successful because I know I can do this for you. And so they're thinking as one organization around the what's great for us as a broader company versus what's great for them within their business unit.
Yeah. And
I do think that is culture. I think it's trust. It's how you connect the team and really understand what our goal is and what we're working towards. I think the purpose is important.
Yeah. Yeah. So that big picture purpose, but then coming down to the day-to-day practical stuff, you've got to trust the people that are around you. Yeah. And the culture has to support the idea that we're all in this together, and that if I help you, I'm not doing that to make a mark, to keep score. It's because that's going to make us all better, and that it'll go round and come back, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. You mentioned a little bit earlier that you're an introvert. I'd just like to kind of touch on that a little bit, because that's one of those things. I'm an introvert as well, and if you look at the definition of introversion, it's about where you go to recharge. So when you're everything's gotten on top of you, you need some space. You need to recharge? Do you go to people, or do you go to yourself? And I like to have space. I surf, and I love to get in the water. And there's a sort of a general perception that introverts don't necessarily make really good leaders, but I have a different view on that. And that actually you can be a great leader whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. There's just different ways of achieving the same thing. What have you found around leadership and being an introvert, especially since a lot of technical experts and technical professionals tend to be more likely to be an introvert than an extrovert? How have you coped with your introversion and perhaps made it into a superpower to get you to where you are now?
I think part of it is recharging. So I'm a big runner. So, I get home and I go for a run, and I kind of process my day and think about everything. But then there's also days when I come home and my husband wants to talk to me, and I'm just like, you just give me an hour just to not talk to anyone, because I just need to get myself, I've been talking to people all day, and I just need to kind of recharge. So I think there is certainly that piece. I actually think it is a learnt skill. So I'll turn up to networking events and I'll be like, right, okay, you got this. Let's go. and proactively talk to all these people. But I don't, it is, I have to say, right, I'm going to do it. It doesn't come naturally. And I think that's the difference. I think the other weird thing is I actually love making people laugh. So I always go to humour quite often, and I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but I think that helps engage and connect with people and help people relax and kind of form a bond. And I think that helps as well as you start to have conversation with different people. And then I think it's I think it's learned. So in the US, I used to do lots of conferences with thousands of people, and it was you start with, you think, oh, this is really scary, and then you kind of get used to it and you're okay. So but I think it comes back to the recharging. I have to go home and recharge. Okay, rebuild my batteries up again, and then I'm ready to go again.
Yeah, that's right. And that getting into it, going to a networking event, it isn't the natural place for us introverts. And I think introversion's a scale. It's not a you either are or you aren't, right? And there's degrees of it. But being able to recharge, then you can go back, and also understanding the value of connecting with other people and growing your network and is really powerful. And that's why when you go to a networking event, you kind of push past it. And for a lot of introverted technical professionals, we tend to shy away from it, but actually it's something that if you lean into it, it'll pay big dividends for you going forward in your career. Have you found that with your career? Has that benefited you to grow, to build your network?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still leverage my US network significantly. I think in the New Zealand market, but even in the US market, it's about relationships. And I often say to my people, people buy from people they like.
Yeah.
So, you have to network, you have to connect, you have to find this common purpose or this common goal together. And you absolutely have to do it. So I'm out 3 nights a week. I'm hosting customers, events or something. You just have to learn to do it. But I think being an introvert can actually help you in a way, because I know that I look at things differently. So I'm a lot more aware of how someone feels when they're talking to me, or that EQ component, I think, comes out. You're a lot more aware of it just because you're aware of yourself. And so in a way, I think it enables you to be a stronger connector with people at a human level.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting. We tend to, rather than want to have a lot of relationships, we prefer to have a connect with people, and probably more understand how we think other people are feeling, and so we can build individual connections, and ultimately it's those one-on-one connections that are things that grow your network. It's not shallow connections with a lot of people. It's having really powerful connections with perhaps fewer people. So that's really
right.
cool. But I don't think it ever comes easy. It's never been easy for me. And it's so easy to pretend that you're just checking your email on your phone rather than going and talking to someone. But you just got to do it, right? Women and inclusiveness and diversity. It's great to see that, that's becoming more of a focus, and that we're focused on inclusiveness and helping people to understand that just because they're a minority in whatever they happen to be, race, gender, whatever it is, that shouldn't be a reason not to go for it. And you're an example of having push that really, really hard. Is there anything that what do you do around? I noted on your bio that you do a lot of stuff around encouraging women to succeed and grow. What are the sorts of things that you do and talk to people about that might help some of the people listening to this interview?
It's interesting. I think I've always been focused on, I've been very clear about what I want to achieve in my career. And what I often see is I see people doing really well in their roles, and they wake up 10 years later and they want to do a different job, but they haven't worked or built themselves up to get to the next role. And so I think you have to do your role really well, and then you have to start mapping to where your next role is going to be. And you need to start networking. You need to start going and doing stretch assignments. So put your hand up for an assignment or a project where you can demonstrate the capability for that next role that you need to move into. You need to start having conversations with people who are hiring for the next role. You need to plan your career path like it's your job, versus waking up, submitting your resume and just think it's going to happen. It doesn't happen like that.
Yep.
And I think as women, we have to be a lot more focused around our careers, where we want to go, what we want to do, and build a plan of activity. And I don't think it comes naturally for us to do it. I also think that there's, I don't know, some statistic about women apply for jobs only if they have 100% of all the skill sets listed, and men, women don't apply for it if they don't match the criteria, but men always apply for it, whether they've got everything listed or not. I know I've gone and applied for jobs and I haven't had every single skill set. I just think I'll figure it out. But there's something in there with the confidence and ability to just give it a go. Yeah. That I think what women don't naturally do that. And I often think we get distracted by thinking we have to give something else up to have a career. And that is just a historical, cultural focus, I think. There's no reason why you can't have a great career and be a great parent, or a great runner or a great whatever friend or whatever it might be. So I often talk to women about having a mentor, having a sponsor, and they're quite different, and making sure you have mentors and sponsors, having your career plan and your career growth, understanding your skill sets, what skill sets you need to learn and develop to get to the next role, really being thoughtful about your process and where you go. And then, also talking about the great things you're doing. As women, we're not great about celebrating our awesomeness enough. And we do need to be our biggest cheerleaders, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, that's powerful. The interestingly, I think that applies probably, in terms of helping other people to see the things that we're doing. That applies to everyone, whether it's men and women, but particularly given the disparity, especially in the tech sector, but and in senior leadership and boards and right across New Zealand and globally. That's really powerful. You talked about mentors and sponsors and the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, and I'll just throw coach in there as well. How do you define the difference between those? Well, certainly the mentor and the sponsor, and perhaps the coach.
Yeah, so it may not be textbook, but this is how I talk about it. So
there's plenty of different ways. I could talk to 20 people and get 20 different views.
Yeah,
I'm just really interested in your view.
When I think about a mentor is someone I go to and they help talk me through my current role and what I'm working on, the challenges I have, how to work through different issues. And they could also certainly give me advice around my career and my next role and what I need to do. A sponsor's interesting, and often you don't even know you have sponsors. And I know when I was at Microsoft, I had sponsors who were putting my name forward for roles, and I didn't even know I had them. But they had seen the work that I had done, and they were advocating for me. That's different to a mentor who you could meet monthly, quarterly, work through the activities that you're working on. And some sponsors you meet once in a while and they keep you in mind for a role. Others, as I say, you don't even know that you have. And that's how I think differently about having a sponsor versus having a mentor.
Yeah. I hadn't considered the sponsor concept, but that's something where someone else is taking an interest in you without you necessarily having made that happen for whatever reason. I guess that's part of the culture of an organization, or maybe it's just that person sees something in you that they think, wow, Lindsay's awesome. I'm gonna do whatever I can to help her, succeed and grow through her role.
Yeah, you see some great talent in your business, and you think that I've got some amazing talent in this business, and I'm watching them.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure that they're being put up for certain roles or they're going for certain training, and they don't even know that I'm doing it. But you will find some people in the organization and you think, they're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But just help them through certain areas. Yeah.
And with a sponsor, do they tend to signal that at any point, or do you just find it out in hindsight? How do you work out who's your sponsor?
Well, I think it depends on the people. I had this one gentleman who's a CVP at Microsoft, and I didn't even know he was my sponsor until I was sitting in a meeting with him and he said to me, so why haven't you applied for this GM role? And I said, I didn't think about it. He goes, well, you should be applying for it. You have all the skill sets to apply for it. I want you to apply for it. And I had no idea that I was on his radar at all. I got that job in the end, and he's an outstanding leader. But you have these people who pop up, and then you have, other sponsors who actively say, I want you in my team. How do we get you in my team? I want to help you move, so kind of depends.
Yeah, but it's not driven from you. It comes from outside. But if there's anything you can do to foster it or help it, it's going to be a good thing. In terms of mentors in your life, it sounds like you've had some really good ones. What's your approach to finding mentors and then setting it up so they say yes to helping you? Because typically it's an unpaid thing, and it's something that benefits you more than them, although from their perspective it's probably that great feeling of being able to help someone else. But what's been your approach that's been successful in that respect?
I think I think there's a couple of things. As a mentor, you often learn as much being a mentor as the mentee does on the other side. I learn so much from people that I mentor, so it is it's beneficial for both sides of the relationship. I think, one, some people have to put themselves forward and say, I proactively want to mentor, and I want to find the time and spend the time in investing in other people. And that's just comes from someone in the leadership or the support and the coaching that they want to provide. And so one is, I think it's beneficial for both sides. Two, proactively asking someone who to be a mentor is great. Like, I think you should find someone and say, I want you to mentor me, but I think before you do that, you need to think about why. So what value are they going to bring? Are they going to help you in your existing role or help you move to your new role? You need to be really clear about exactly what you want to get out of the relationship. You need to position it from that person. These are the 5 things I want to work on with you. And that mentor needs to buy in and say, either I believe I can help you or not. Because I've always said to people, I'm happy to have coffee chats with anyone, but if you want me to mentor you, you need to come with a clear direction plan around what you want to get out of it. Because you can have as many chats as you want, but you're not actually going to get anything out of it or move forward. And then I think it's really important for the person being mentored to be proactive about, right, this is the topic I want us to talk about when we meet next week, or this is what I've learned over the last couple of weeks, or whatever it might be. And I think use it more than just a coffee chat. Really make sure you're clear about what you want to get out of it and the core purpose of it. And then also be careful about how many you have, because I remember at one point I think I had 4 or 5. I'll say this it's ridiculous. And make sure you know exactly which one's for what. And then I started making sure that I had mentors just focusing on my career progression, because I actually had phenomenal managers, like leaders, and they were coaching or whatever it might be in my current role. And so I was very clear about what I wanted from those people. So have I answered your question?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And the key thing that I got out of that was the responsibilities really on the person being mentored to obviously approach the person, but have a clear understanding or a clear idea of what they want to get out of it, not make it too broad, and then manage the whole process so that they're driving it, and that they're as opposed to the mentor going, well, how can I help you today? It's more, okay, so we've agreed on this, or here's where we're going today, and then they can bring their breadth and depth of experience to bear on this thing that the person being mentored wants to achieve out of that relationship.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Look, that's fantastic. Lindsay, this has been an awesome conversation. Just before we wrap up, is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have? Or any last comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, the only last comment I'll make, and I often talk to people about two things. One is people often say to me, how do you get work-life balance? I can't tell you how many times I get that question. And I remember I was at IBM and I had this manager and he said to me, because I asked him that, I was like, because I had a newborn and I was trying to figure out my work-life balance. And he said, I will never give you work-life balance. Work-life balance is in your control. This organisation will give you as much work as we want to until you put your hand up and say stop.
Yeah.
And it was like this light bulb went over my head, and I realised that you will be overworked because you allow an organisation to overwork you. It's all within your control. How do you prioritise? How do you work with your manager on, what must be done, what could be done, or what we hope is done, and how to think about prioritising your activities, and then have these regular conversations. And so that people always ask me that one. I think that that's a really interesting way to think about work-life balance being in your control. And the other element around leadership is you don't always have to move up to move up. You can move sideways to move up. And moving sideways is good. So moving laterally to learn a new skill or to improve your network within the broader organisation, whatever it might be, is often a great step to then build a strong, you can then sometimes what I've done is I've moved sideways and then I've leapfrogged twice up at Microsoft. And so it doesn't always have to be this linear move, so I think differently about what your next role could be and the value it will add as you think about your next job and then your next job. So what are the skill sets I need for my next job and what are the skill sets I need for the next job after that? Yeah. And do I have my runway that's helping me build that? And once you get clarity on that, then you really know what your career plan is.
Yeah, that's really insightful, and I'm sure could help anyone just starting out in their career, moving into leadership, and as they grow. And the interesting thing is, almost no one that I've ever met has a career that's a straight line. It's always take a step and then work out where you go next, right? And we've talked today about the help of having people around you and having a really sort of focused approach on how you move up in your career, but not necessarily that it's going to be the structured thing that you're going to do. Lindsay, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for making the time. It's been a great interview. I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully we can have you back on the show at some point. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Anytime. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you have a friend or a colleague who would benefit from this episode, please pass the word along. If you have a friend or a colleague who would not benefit, but you haven't been in touch with them for a while, give them a call. iTunes reviews are great to get the word out and to help me create the show that's most useful for you. And if you're frustrated or having challenges or would like some help, guidance, assistance with your first leadership role, then check out integrationcatalyst.com in the link in the podcast notes below. Or pass this on to your boss to nudge them to get you the help you really need to cross the doing to managing chasm and get you powered up on your leadership and management journey. Oh, and if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, hit subscribe. Until next time.